The wind whispered through the trees that night, brushing against the windows like fingers tracing glass. It had been a long, exhausting day for Madison Blake. Her small house nestled in the outskirts of Portland was peaceful most nights, but something about the way the air shifted after midnight felt different. She had come home late after a double shift at the bakery and had just enough energy to strip down to her oversized t-shirt and crawl into bed. In her haze of fatigue, she completely forgot to close the front door all the way. It was just a crack, a whisper of an opening, but enough to let something, or someone, slip in. At exactly 12:37 a.m. Madison stirred. Her body was used to the stillness of silence, the low hum of her fan and the occasional bark of a neighbor's dog. But tonight there was a sound, soft, subtle, like a foot against hardwood. Her eyes blinked open in the dim glow of moonlight streaming through the window. Her heart gave a soft thump. She held her breath, listening. Another step. Then silence. She sat up slowly, her legs tangled in the sheet, and looked toward the hallway. Is someone there? Her voice was barely a whisper. No answer. She swung her legs over the bed, her bare feet meeting the cool wood floor. The sound had stopped, but her pulse was racing. She reached for the baseball bat she kept under the bed, a habit she'd picked up after living alone for 2 years. Slowly, carefully, she moved toward the bedroom door. Her house wasn't big. A small hallway led into the living room and kitchen, and right by the kitchen was the front door. She took a deep breath and crept down the hallway. The shadows stretched and twisted on the walls as she passed. When she reached the front door, her breath caught. It was open, not fully but enough to see the porch light spilling in. Damn it, she whispered. Then something shifted behind her. Before she could turn around, a hand gently touched her shoulder. She screamed, spun around and raised the bat, but it stopped midair. Whoa, Maddie, it's me. Her eyes widened. Blake? Blake Carter? What the hell are you doing here? Blake, her ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago, stood in the hallway in a leather jacket, jeans and boots covered in mud. His hair was longer than she remembered, messier, and his eyes, dark and intense, were just as dangerous as they used to be. You left the door open, he said calmly, but his voice was low and rough like gravel and smoke. I knocked, then I called out, but when I heard nothing I stepped in. At 1 a.m? Are you insane? She hissed. He looked her over, his gaze lingering. You're wearing my shirt. Madison glanced down. It was true. The oversized tee had once belonged to him. It still smelled faintly like him too, even after all this time. She pulled the bat closer to her chest. You didn't answer my question. Why are you here? Blake took a step forward. His eyes were locked on hers. I was driving through town. I've been thinking about you for months, Maddie. I couldn't sleep, so I came to see if maybe you'd want to talk. But now I'm not sure I want to leave. Madison's breath hitched. She should tell him to go. She should slam the door and forget she ever let that man back in. But her heart fluttered in a way she hated to admit. She remembered the way he used to look at her. The way he touched her like she was the only woman in the world. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. But I am, he replied, taking another step. Before she could protest, another gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them. The sound echoed through the room, followed by complete silence. They stood there just inches apart, their breath heavy, the tension between them thick and electric. I missed you, Blake said. She looked up at him, searching his face for lies. You left me. I made a mistake. He leaned in just a little closer. You're still the only person who ever made me feel like I belonged. And seeing you here in that shirt with your hair messy, looking like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. I can't walk away. Madison should have pushed him away. Instead she dropped the bat. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Then her fingers reached out, touched his chest, solid, warm, real. He stepped into her touch. Their lips were a breath apart. You smell like trouble, she murmured. I am trouble, he said and kissed her. The kiss was slow, deliberate, almost reverent. His hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer. Her body melted into his like it had been waiting for him all these years. She wrapped her arms around his neck, deepening the kiss. He lifted her slightly, carrying her back down the hallway as their mouths stayed fused. In the bedroom, the air was charged with heat. Blake set her down gently on the bed, his fingers tracing up the curve of her thigh as he leaned in to kiss her neck. Madison gasped softly, arching into him. She hadn't been touched like this in so long, hadn't wanted anyone like this since him. His lips traveled lower, teasing, exploring. Her skin flushed as heat coiled low in her belly. He took his time, whispering her name like a prayer as he mapped her body with his hands and mouth. When their clothes slipped away, nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the door, not the time. Just them. Hours passed in tangled sheets and breathless laughter. When they finally lay still, wrapped in each other, the room was quiet again. Madison ran her fingers down his chest, still trying to process it all. What does this mean, Blake? He kissed her temple. It means I'm not leaving unless you tell me to. She thought about it, then shook her head. I'm not ready to say goodbye again. Outside, the wind had died down and the night was still. But neither of them noticed the figure standing across the street, watching the house, the dark silhouette unmoving. The next morning, Madison awoke to the scent of coffee and the sound of Blake humming in the kitchen. She smiled, pulling the sheet around her as she padded down the hallway. He stood there shirtless, brewing coffee, looking like the man she used to love but somehow even better. I made your favorite, he said, handing her a mug. Hazelnut with too much sugar. She laughed. You still remember. I never forgot. They sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, sipping coffee and watching the morning sun rise. It felt surreal, like a dream that had crossed into real life. But just as she leaned against him, feeling more peace than she had in years, there was a knock on the door. Her stomach twisted. Blake stood, already on alert. I'll get it, he said. He opened the door, this time closed properly all night, and was met with a man in a black suit, his eyes cold, calculating. Blake Carter, the man asked. Blake stiffened. Yeah. Who are you? I'm Agent Thomas with the Bureau. We need to talk. It's urgent. Madison's blood ran cold. Blake glanced back at her, then stepped outside, closing the door behind him. Through the window she could see them talking, voices low, serious. When he came back in minutes later, his face was pale, his jaw clenched. What's going on? She asked. He looked at her for a long moment. I thought I left it all behind. But it seems like my past just found me. Madison swallowed hard. Blake, what did you do? He moved closer, brushing her hair back. Nothing I can't fix. But I need you to trust me. She hesitated, torn between fear and the burning memory of his hands on her skin, his kiss still lingering on her lips. I don't know if I can. He nodded, understanding. Then let me prove that you can. The rest of the day passed in a blur of questions and silence. Blake didn't say much, only that there had been things he never told her, things he thought were buried. Madison watched him from the couch as he stared out the window, his hand curled around a whiskey glass, deep in thought. That night she lay awake in bed, listening again to the wind outside. But this time the door was closed. This time the man who once broke her heart was sleeping beside her again. What happened when she forgot to close the door at midnight? Everything changed. One forgotten moment led to a night of passion, a door to the past reopening, and a future suddenly full of danger, mystery, and the kind of love that refused to die. And even as she drifted to sleep, Madison knew, this was only the beginning.